Aloha, and welcome to Virtual Live at the Legislature. I'm Carolyn Tanaka, and joining me this morning are two representatives from our neighbor islands. First of all is Representative Dee Morikawa. She is the Kauai representative representing Waimea and Ni'ihau. And also from the beautiful island of Maui is Representative Troy Hashimoto, and he represents Wailuku and Waihe'e. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carolyn.
It's nice to see y'all again. Hopefully we will be meeting in person shortly. It looks like we have done this, the state has done a fantastic job and people listened and we are flattening the curve. Representative Morikawa, Kauai has been particularly successful in keeping your numbers down. What was it like and what is the morale like now?
Well, Carolyn, this has been an unbelievable moment in history. I mean, although you kind of, people predicted that this might happen, you just don't believe that it would, and it has. Here we are today. And fortunately on Kauai, the mayor took really quick action and instituted that curfew, that 9 to 5 curfew that was very, very controversial, but we think that in the long run, that has led to such low numbers on Kauai, where we had 21 cases total. And it's been almost, a long time before since we've had a new case. And that we have just one more active case that was recently released from the hospital. So that's really great news. And we got to praise our mayor for that. And he's been very supportive and entertaining, as we all have found out on social media. So we're really lucky that we have a good leader at the top. But yeah, Kauai is doing
Yeah, who knew he was so...
Exactly. Yeah.
And Representative Hashimoto, Maui had a couple of unique challenges, especially with the cluster at the hospital. But so how are things going on Maui and what is the morale like?
I think you're right. We do have a lot of unique challenges on Maui. We are a tri-isle county. And so I think there's a lot more complexities when you have, those various islands. But I think we've been working hard in conjunction with the county to make sure we can flatten this curve. And I think we've, Maui, although we've had cases, I think we've done a great job. I think the biggest concern has, especially for Maui Island specifically, is really trying to figure out how we're dealing with our hospital. I think, we'll look back and we'll identify what went wrong at the hospital to create a cluster. But I think moving forward, it's really about making sure that we support our frontline employees, making sure that their proper protective equipment, and making sure that, if coronavirus does come back, we're ready for it. And so that has been our focus at this point. We, a part of the Maui delegation visited the hospital to make sure that, things are moving forward in terms of communication with employees. So everyone is on the same page. Because I think, we only have one hospital here on Maui. And so as a result, we need to have confidence and support those who are working to take care of us. So I think my hope is we'll see our way out of this. But I think we need to keep focus on getting the essentials done to make sure that if anything does happen, we are prepared.
And I know that since the legislature, since we've been in shelter in place and we had to recess, that a lot of our lawmakers, your colleagues, have been very busy in your district, working with your constituents, keeping them informed. Dee, what are some of the things that you've been doing in this new normal times?
Well, for me, I've been trying to be quarantined as long as I could because I came back from Oahu. But my community is just awesome. We have this group in Kekaha. They call themselves the Uncles, and they've been helping the school with getting extra food out to the schools when they come to pick up their meals for breakfast and lunch. They go out of their way, and we're lucky because these guys are fishermen. They catch fresh fish, and they're able to distribute it to whoever stops by for food. So they've been wonderful, and it's been happening all over. I'm lucky that in my district, I have 3 schools that are giving meals away to students. So that's really big. And I'm very thankful.
And Representative Troy, what about you? I know that you've been busy doing, in fact, you've got something, an event going on today.
Yeah, we've been very busy here on Maui. I think we've been really trying hard to reach out with constituents. I think now more than ever, they need assistance. I think unemployment is a huge issue, and we've been trying to walk a lot of constituents through that process. And I feel your frustration. It is a tough process. I even tried to call the unemployment line myself the other day, and it is difficult to get someone on the phone. So I'm just trying to understand how we can fix it, and I think the legislature is really trying to pressure the governor and Department of Labor to make those changes. Yes, we do have a big event coming up today from 10 to 1. We'll be distributing masks in conjunction with the Nisei Veterans Memorial Center and Everyone Hawaii who purchased the masks. You've seen them throughout the state. So today is Maui's Day. And we will be, distributing them at TJ's Warehouse in Central Maui, at Island Grocery at both locations, and Pukalani Superette in Upcountry Maui. And so, from 10 to 1 again, 4 locations, and we just want everyone to stay safe because you do need a mask. That is a mandate here on Maui, and I think that's really important to make sure that you follow those instructions.
Well, I'd like looking ahead. As I said earlier, we will be restarting the economy. It will be a new normal. It will not be easy. And nobody has all the answers. But in the few minutes that we have remaining, I'd like to get both of you, your thoughts on what do you think, or what would you hope that a post-COVID world looks like for your island and for the state? Dee, you want to take that first?
Yes, Carolyn, I think we have to get used to the fact that we have to stop the spread of anything. And wearing masks is going to be the new normal. And just going to grocery stores, there's going to be that protection between you and the other person. We have to get used to that. But the most important thing right now is to stabilize the budget for us legislators. And we have to focus on economic recovery. And, we can get back to that time later in the future where we can start dealing with child care and just housing and just making people's lives a little easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy, you are a freshman lawmaker. You are a young guy. This world will belong to you and your colleague, your classmates soon. This is an opportunity for us, is it not?
It absolutely is. I think, when I talk to a lot of my, colleagues and people I grew up with, I think it's really thinking about how do we rebuild this economy and do it in a way that's thoughtful and sustainable, that can sustain, this type of downturn. So I think instead of going back to the same old, I think this is a time to kind of reinvent ourselves and how that looks. I think that's going to take the entire community to determine. We're going to really have to brainstorm and work together to figure out what that is. But I think that there is an overwhelming support of trying something new. So I'm in support of that. I want to work on that because I think, absolutely, we don't want to go back to what we had because I think there is a lot of excitement for our future.
So maybe out of all of this, something good will end up and turn out, I am sure. I think we were all a bit afraid of the future, but also very excited about the possibilities. And I would like to thank both of you, Dee from Kauai and Troy from Maui, for joining us today. And thank you for joining all of us, all you virtual people out there who got up at 8:30 in the morning to watch us. We will see you next week, Tuesday. Aloha.
Aloha kakayaka, and welcome back to Live at the Legislature. I'm the Senate's Communications Director, Jesse Broder Van Dyke, and our guest this week is Senator Laura Thielen, coming to us live from her home in Waimanalo. Senator Thielen represents the east side of Oahu, including Kailua, Lanikai, Waimanalo, and part of Hawaii Kai, and she also has Papa Hanau Mokuakea as part of her district, the Northwest Hawaiian Islands Monument. Thank you for joining us, Senator Thielen. Thanks for being here this morning. You chair the Committee on Government Operations. How do you think the state government is handling the COVID-19 response so far, and what could we be doing better?
Good morning, Jesse. Thank you for having me on today. I think our state, it is reacting similarly to a lot of other states, and that we're kind of wrestling to how to deal with this pandemic unfolding in real time. Similar to a lot of other states, we found that our back office systems are very old. We haven't invested in keeping them modernized and updated. And as a result, a lot of people are feeling a lot of pain, like with the unemployment system, the computer being, 30, antiquated, I think was the term the director used. And so it's showing that, we have to be able to be more nimble and more quick in being able to respond to needs. And I think that's going to be true in the future as well as now. That said, I think there's a lot of people that are stepping up. Hawaii tends to be really, really generous, and much more generous than I think any other state that I'm aware of on the mainland. And so the food drives, the donations, the support, the DOE coming up very quickly with the grab and go lunches and breakfasts at the schools. I mean, that just means a huge, huge deal for all of our residents. And it's been great to see, that outpouring.
And you and a number of Senate staffers volunteered to go work for the unemployment office and help them clear this backlog. They got over 230,000 unemployment claims in a single month. With your help and the over 30 volunteers from the Senate and a number of volunteers from the House and other Capitol employees, they've gotten through at least about half of the backlog now, almost 90,000 claims. What was your experience like working down there at the convention center?
Again, it was, people stepping forward and the department being willing to, invite folks in, different state agencies contributing the computers and setting up things down at the convention center. It was really a heroic effort. And I just give a lot of credit to everybody who participated in that. That said, it's pretty clear that the system that we use to process unemployment claims, it's going to take time. There's a lot of claims that you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to verify. And while I think the department has now passed the 50% mark, that still leaves, maybe just under 100,000 people that have been going a month to 2 months waiting for this processing. So I've been putting forward an idea for the department, the governor to consider the legislature, that I think we should take these claims and start giving people $600 weekly payments, requiring them to agree that once their claim is processed, that the state, they will get either $600 for the federal unemployment or the $600 from the PUA, federal self-employed, that the state could reimburse itself for the payments up front, and then give all the back payments and the continuing payments going forward to the claimants. But people in Hawaii, that are coming from the tourism industry, the restaurant industry, they can't go 2 months without a paycheck. I mean, it's heartbreaking. The emails that we're getting, the lines at the food drives that are backing up for a mile. So it's time for the state to recognize that even with the heroic efforts, it's not enough. We do have federal money that has come into all the states that could front end these $600 weekly payments to everybody that's currently waiting for their application to get processed. And then most of that would be coming back from the federal unemployment payments, and the state could then use that and invest it in economic diversification or other things that we need to do going forward.
And Hawaii has really been affected because our number one industry is tourism more than any other state. Well, at the same time, we've been lucky to have a relatively low rate of infection so far because of all the measures we've taken. Your district has a lot of tourists. Kailua in particular has been inundated for years. What's it like going there right now with no tourists and only locals?
You know, I've been abiding by the stay-at-home order most of the time. I have gone to go visit my mother for social distance visiting, you know, to bring her some things from our garden and, you know, socialize a bit with her. And so when I am out on the road, you know, there's definitely a lot of traffic is missing. I think there's a lot of concern about how do we set up good security, given that we don't know a lot of information about this virus and we're still finding out a lot scientifically, so that if we do open up for visitors to come back again, that it's done in a safe way. And I think it's a little premature to be opening up at this point. We still need more data. We still need more infrastructure at the airports to be able to take care of that before people can start coming in.
And for a while there, the governor and the mayor closed all the beach parks and wouldn't let people go even to go exercise in the parks. They've since been relaxed. Has that made a difference? Have people been following the social distancing guidelines?
I think it's made a huge difference. We don't have a lot of area for people to be able to walk and recreate. And, you know, especially on Oahu, our roads are really, you know, narrow and they're jammed, and it's not necessarily safe for people to walk there. We don't have sidewalks. You know, the beach and the parks are really essential for people to be able to get out. When I go down to do my beach walks, people have been very respectful of the social distancing. You see a few outliers. I mean, you always do, but for the most part, I think everybody's very grateful to be able to get back out there and kind of nourish their soul and let their young kids burn off a little energy, and, you know, which is essential. When my kids were young, you know, being housebound with them would be really tough.
Yep. Well, we just have about a minute left. What do you think the future of Oahu looks like as we come through this pandemic?
You know, I think what's really important is for people in government to keep in mind, we're going to say the future is going to be changed forever, but the nation and the world has been through pandemics before, and over time people forget. So it's important that we make sure that we update these back office systems so that if something happens again 20, 30 years from now, people are not stuck with an antiquated, you know, unemployment software that's dated, you know, back in 2020. You know, when in 2060, it's going to be outdated again. So those systems that help government function, being able to make sure that they work two ways. We don't just take money in, we're able to get it out quickly when we need to people. Setting that up and maintaining it over time is going to be an essential so that we are prepared, because we will forget in the future and things will go back and something may happen again, and we need to be much better prepared than we are today.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Laura Thielen, coming to us live from Waimanalo. Appreciate you joining us, and thanks for everyone at home for tuning in. We'll be back again next week for Live at the Legislature. Aloha.
Thank you, Jesse.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record Live at the Legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.
Aloha and welcome back to this week's episode of Live at the Legislature. I'm Kaioke Aloha Lindsay, your host for the House Minority. Joining us this morning is Representative Bob McDermott. He's a member of the House Special Committee on COVID-19 and represents House District 40, which is around Eva Beach. Representative McDermott, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning. How are you?
Good morning, Kaio. How are you doing?
Doing well. So you're, can you tell us first a little bit about your work on the committee this week, and then I'll transition on to the recovery plan that you're working on.
Sure. First, I want to thank the whole gang at Olelo for getting up early. I got to get up at 0:30 to put this whole thing together for the public. So I want to acknowledge them. They work hard and they don't get acknowledged. I want to say thank you, gentlemen, Mr. Graham and your team. Excellent. Excellent. Now, you, Kaio, well, I don't know about you, but you're.
Yeah, I try my best.
You're a wonderful young man. So the committee is, my perception of it is it's a lot of good information coming out, but we're stovepiping in a sense. And I'm not sure what the direction or measurables we're supposed to ascertain. That hasn't been articulated. So a lot of good information you're hearing from everybody under the sun, from retail merchants to the University of Hawaii Economic Department to Peter Ho at the Bank of Hawaii. A lot of good information. And I guess as legislators, we're supposed to take that information, use it as a tool, and try and put some policy together. That's my sense of it at this point.
And so with that information, you're working on with my boss, an economic recovery plan. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, your boss and my big brother, Representative Ward, we see a need. We believe that the local economy by Memorial Day will be fully up and operational. We see our cases are down to 0 or 1 new case a day. So we've won that local battle. The question now is, how do we knowingly bring in infected people? I mean, that's once we open it up to tourism, we're going to knowingly bring in infected people. So give you an example. At the height of tourism, we're bringing in 30,000 people a day. Let's say we get to 1/3 of that, 10,000 a day, and only 1% are asymptomatic or positive with showing no symptoms. Because this is highly transmittable, upon their arrival, they have the potential to infect up to 3 or more people. So now you have 300 from that 100 passengers in that one day, you now have 300 new infections, or 100 plus, 300 new infections. It will only take a couple of weeks or months before you see this spike again, which will be untenable. And the local people will know where the spike came from. It didn't come from Kalihi. It came from California, New York, Chicago, and they're not going to be happy. And then we're going to have to, I would hope David wouldn't roll into these protocols because it's not locally, it's being spread by incoming visitors. We rely on them for our economy, but we don't want the disease. So Rep. Ward and I are putting together a package where these passengers are tested 72 hours prior to departure to Honolulu. Now, we can't force them in another jurisdiction to do that, and we cannot impede their right to travel. But we can, once they get to Hawaii, we can tell them under the National Guard and with the governor's authority, because of a pandemic, you may not leave the airport unless you have proof you've tested negative or you take a test right now and test negative. If they test positive, then they're given to the National Guard and put in a real quarantine, a mandatory quarantine. It'd be a nice hotel with cable TV, air conditioning, and everything. But they're not going to meander along the beaches like everybody else is, making a laughing stock out of this quote unquote quarantine, because it's voluntary, which is no quarantine at all. So we have the opportunity to drive it to 0, manage it to 0. And then imagine the marketing, Kaeo. Come to Hawaii. All of our employees in the Hilton Hawaiian Hotel have been tested and they're COVID-free. Travel on Hawaiian Air, COVID-free airline, 99%, 9% COVID-free. We test everyone. You can charge a premium for those tickets and people will pay for them, particularly if you're older than 60, because that's the high-risk group, right? So this is what we're working on. We haven't heard this articulated yet. And Gene and I have talked to airline leaders, tourism leaders. I listened to the committee meetings. You know, I'm doing a lot of talking today, but I find it that with our 3 minutes left, that you can learn more with your ears open and your mouth closed. So at the committee hearings, I just listened, and I don't sense a path forward how they're planning to grapple with this next part, which is the visitor industry. How do we re-engage them without re-engaging the virus? So Gene and I are putting together a thumbnail sketch, a framework for that, because with two of us, we have the agility and nimbleness to do that. We're a committee of 50. You can't get them to agree on what time of day it is.
Are there examples of the contact tracing and rapid testing that's in your plan?
So Emirates Airlines is doing testing of all passengers as we speak prior to boarding. Now it's a little different dynamic. The travel volume is not as high, and they're loaded with money, and it's a much leisurely pace. But we're going to have to readjust because tourism is not going to go back to the way it was with our 2 minutes left. And I just want to say that we're not going to go back to tourism as the way it was. And, maybe that's a good thing. We don't need 10 million people stressing our sewers, stressing the Nama Bay, stressing the traffic. It's like 160,000 cars 70,000 extra cars on Oahu a day when we have all our visitors. So it's a huge, huge number of folks. But if we can charge a premium for a COVID-free vacation, that's great. But it's not going to happen unless we test or require some sort of testing with enforcement.
With our probably now a minute and a half left, I wanted to ask you about the economic diversification aspect of it, because I think there's a big focus on that, trying to get away from tourism, but we also can't ignore the $17.75 billion that we get in visitor spending from last year to about $2 billion in tax revenue. So what do you think of that?
So you're absolutely right. But if we charge a premium, we can recoup some of that, not most of it or all of it, but a portion. But what we can also do, Kyle, is give us an opportunity to reset. And I don't mean this in a BS way. I mean, we now know we need to be self-sustaining in certain things. We don't have a dairy here. We should have a dairy in the state. We should have a couple slaughterhouses for pork and beef. We don't have anything. There's no reason we can't do that. We should have a flash fresh frozen factory down at the pier for the fishermen so they can flash freeze their extra catch and don't have to sell it at a loss or anything. And we can do that, put an RFP out. The state will give the processor the land for free, provided they do X, Y, and Z, and then they work with the fishermen. We just have to get off our duff and do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Representative McDermott, any closing comments for our last 30 seconds?
Well, with 30 seconds left, I want to tell the Olelo guys that they've done a fantastic job as always. With me coming in at the last minute, you coming in, you guys are always, is he going to get on? Is he going to get on? He's disorganized. Well, you guys have all done great. I want to thank you. Olelo, Kaeo, Gene, everybody, thank you. Aloha, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Representative McDermott. Everyone, we will see you next week. Aloha.